So we raised 34 million US dollars from over 100 investors, and we have invested about 70% of that. The way a fund works is we raise the money, and then we have 4 years to invest it, and then we have to sell everything over the second 4 years. So it's an 8-year fund.
8-year fund, yes.
And we've invested about 70% of the 34 million. And we've done 8 investments so far. And we've picked the basic sectors of the economy, and we tried to find the strongest company in each sector.
Yes.
So we're in the largest bank, Aklida Bank, which is a real success story. I'm very proud of this company, what it's achieved. We're a small shareholder, but it's a big position for our fund, our largest position now. Secondly, we've participated in a syndicated loan to CamGSM, the largest cell phone operator, and this company has a very strong position in its industry. Third, we've invested in creating a brewery, and we can talk more about that later.
All right.
But for those of us who like beer, we've invested in that sector. Fourth, we've invested in a seafood processing plant, which is the first in the country.
Yes.
We've helped finance a power grid to deliver electricity to 8,000 homes in Kampong Cham.
Yes.
We've invested in a property development project in Siem Reap, and in a microfinance institution which gives loans to farmers so they can buy better seeds and fertilizer and get more rice when they harvest.
In this sort of selection, what are you looking for in the company that you're going to put a minority shareholding? You know, what drive that decision factor?
I think the most important thing is the management team of the company. We have to back people that we can trust, that they're both ethical, they're transparent, and they're good businessmen. So I think that's the first thing we look at, is who's in charge of the company, and are they capable of growing the company in the way that they predict. So that's the most important thing. Second thing is the position is this a good industry to be in Cambodia, and is this likely to be a winner in that industry? Then we look at, can we get out on schedule? Is the company planning to go into the stock exchange, or are they going to sell some shares to a multinational later? So we have to think of our plan, how we're going to get out. So these are the key things that any fund looks at when they make an investment.
So basically, political stability is very important. It's primary decision making. And then when you come down to the decision making at the selection of the sector, you look at primarily sectors that are fundamental to the national economy. And then, if I understand you well, is the last criteria would be the management of the company. In this decision making, do you look a lot into the policy of the royal government? You know, in terms of trade policy, in terms of integration policy, in the ASEAN context, in the WTO context, intellectual property, trade liberalization. Are these factors that you take into consideration?
Certainly they're important. Normally we invest in what we call the competitive sectors of the economy. Normally we don't look for a special concession or special monopoly, but we just invest in industries that have done well across Southeast Asia. So if we look back 30 years ago, 25 years ago into Indonesia or Thailand or Malaysia, which sectors were successful over the last few decades? And then we see in Cambodia, are those sectors open for investment? Are there many participants in those industries now? And how can we get positioned appropriately? Of course, the policies matter, but I think our general comment in Cambodia, it's a free market economy, which is different from many economies, which are partially free market. Even in America, it's not as free market as they like to say, but this is a real, true free market capitalism economy. So it's often not really driven by the government's policies other than opening the market. It's more driven by the competition between private sector companies. And we're comfortable to participate in that competition.
In the sector in itself, you mentioned a few of your investment there. I'm quite interested in area that I see a lot of value add, because in the case of Cambodia, we've been pretty much too focused up to now on garment industry. We have the tourism industry, the construction, which is the fundamental. But I do not think that we have benefit or we have extract the most benefit from our trade liberalization, from the market access as opened by the accession to WTO, or for that matter in the regional context, ASEAN, ASEAN plus China, ASEAN free trade with Australia, New Zealand, for example. So sector that can bring value add and keep the value, the employment in the country, export at high value is very important. And I think you are investing, for example, in the seafood export. Tell me more about that.
Sure. I think the sector that has the most potential for this country is food processing. It's what we call value added. Cambodia has historically been a producer of food, of rice, also of other commodities like rubber and so on. But in recent years, it has added little value beyond growing the primary crop. So Cambodian farmers will grow rice and then put it in a truck and it goes to Vietnam or goes to Thailand. And they make most of the money off that rice by milling it and turning it into packaged food and so on. So what we have to do is to bring those industries into Cambodia, teach some of the farmers that they don't have to stand in the field and farm. They can stand in the factory and make a higher wage, a more steady income. Or maybe the children of the farmer can do that. So these industries are central to Cambodia's future growth prospects. We have put our funds money into one of those industries, which is shrimp processing. Cambodia has 400 kilometers of coastline, and every day hundreds of small boats go out and catch shrimp in the ocean. And they bring it back and sell it normally to Thai or Vietnamese processing companies that pick it up and bring it to their factories and hire people in their countries to process it. So we want to bring the processing here in Cambodia. So a shrimp that's born in Cambodia is sold as a Cambodian frozen packaged shrimp. So we've invested in a company called Nautisco Seafood Manufacturing. And I believe they're the first company to create a seafood plant of this magnitude. It's a world-class, high-tech seafood processing plant down near Sihanoukville province. So we've taken a minority stake in this company and helped them buy more equipment and further improve their factory. They've been going for 1 year now, and they've sold 11 40-foot containers of frozen shrimp to Japan, which is a remarkable achievement. Most people in business know that the standards in Japan are some of the toughest in the world. The Japanese are very picky about cleanliness and sanitation, as they should be. So for a Cambodian company to be selling the shrimp that might go on a sushi restaurant in Japan, I think is something for Cambodia to be proud of. The people working in this factory have, in most cases, never worked a job before, coming to work at 8 in the morning and leaving at 5 o'clock or something. So this is, for most of them, it's their first steady job. They've been taught to wear uniforms, to wash their hands 3 times before they go in the factory, and to follow a demanding process to create shrimp. The shrimp comes in as sort of a whole animal, and they take the shell off and the head off and all the different process, and sometimes they cook it, and it goes out in a frozen bag and goes to Japan, and it's thawed out and served in a restaurant because it's clean and it's good. So this is an example of what Cambodia can achieve if it has capital and expertise and training. This country can do almost anything. We should not set limits and say we can't do that in Cambodia. We can. Now Tisco is showing a difficult industry that is possible.